Hi, it is the door that kills anime and manga, and I'm bringing you one of the first anime reviews onto my channel. And why not start this off better than doing a film directed by one of my favorite anime producers slash directors, Hayao Miyazaki, a guy who's made Spirited Away, Princess Mononoke, Howl's Moving Castle. If any of you guys have seen those movies, then I think you will enjoy this upcoming review and this movie for My Neighbor Totoro. The story starts off with our two main characters, Mei and Satsuki. They're sisters who have moved over to this Japanese rural land in order to move closer to where their mother's hospital is. It mainly revolves around Satsuki and Mei, the sisters, and this bear spirit, or Totoro, and his two other little small Totoro companions. The plot of this story really isn't there. This isn't an issue because this is a children's story. It just wants to show the adventures of these two characters, Satsuki and Mei, and see how they interact with this being called a Totoro. We see throughout the whole movie that they have times where they're really happy when they see a Totoro, and there are times that they're really bad. In the second half of the movie, there's a big point where they react differently to their mother not being able to come home with them because she's sick in the hospital, and we see how Satsuki and Mei reflect and go through the troubles of life because of that. This isn't a plot or a conflict inside of a story because this has been hyped up throughout the movie. Half of the movie is about finding the mystery of actually Totoro, and when they find them, Totoro makes miracles happen. So in this movie, Mei and Satsuki treat the Totoro genuinely. He treats them nice, and there's this legendary scene where you can see all the time in a picture of where Satsuki is standing with Mei sleeping on her back, and both the Totoro and Satsuki with Mei on her back are just standing there in the rain. And this scene is very pivotal because it shows the interaction between the spiritual world and innocence. And when I mean innocence, I mean the children there. And it just seems so surreal when you actually see the moment. And I could see one of the main themes inside of the quote-unquote plot in this story, which is reality and non-reality. How innocence can interact with something they're not aware with, but we can interpret it in different ways. I think the reason for these children coming in the story and seeing how life would tackle them down, or how life would be hard, but then they would get back up and there wouldn't be anything too difficult or too heart-wrenching, was because they wanted to show kids that it is hard. Life does get hard, but miracles can happen. I did think it covered the mother being sick and potentially dying very well, and the fears of being with those you don't know and those you want to love at the same time. And speaking of the characters, they are interesting. I'll just talk about a few segmented ones. We have Satsuki, the older sister of the two, who's very independent now that her mother's gone. She basically leads the family, and there's one scene where she's cooking for her dad in the morning. With Mei, she is the follower type. She goes wherever her father or wherever her sister is at. And there's this cuteness inside of the family because I've done this with my older brother from time to time, but Meg has this thing whenever, and especially in the beginning of the movie, that her and her sister are playing around and they are just annoying. And I mean that in a positive way. Like, a younger sister's annoying, you know, when they reflect off what the older sister does because they don't have their own personalities and haven't developed that yet. And she's very young for her age, so she tends to copy wherever she says. She tends to go wherever she goes. She tends to reflect her actions off of what her older sister Satsuki does, and I just felt that was cute, and that just shows her innocence. And the second time into the movie, Mei shows that she's pure in her thoughts, because as she is with Granny, one of the other secondary characters, we see that she wants to help her mother, and when her mother is threatened to not come home because she's sick, and when Satsuki just averts her emotions towards that, Mei is sad, and she thinks extreme. She thinks she's gonna walk all the way to the hospital and then give her something that Granny gave her in order to make her better. So the sisters' interaction in the series is what makes us feel that this is lighthearted. So while it does have a little sad moments in between, it's short, to the point, and then it makes us feel better when they actually get happy again. Our third character, Granny, while secondary, did play an important role in protecting the girl. She seemed like one of those grannies, and there was this one scene where the granny did want Mei to come over to the house, but Mei was sad because she hasn't been in a situation where she's been away from her immediate family. She was shocked. She did not know what was going on at the time. And even though Granny, towards the end of the film, when Mei went missing, she was more religious. And we saw a fact that, she was more worried about them, and she was more heartfelt, and she was more dedicated to making sure that these girls were safe. And I felt that that was a good element in place because it really projected that family appeal towards the audience. Mei and Satsuki's father, Tatsuo, Kusakabe really doesn't play a primary role. Next is the setting of the story. When we're introduced towards the new place that Satsuki and Mei are living, we see farmers around them. The harvesting and farming was going back then, and it's a very non-congested area, so it was a peaceful place. And I thought that properly was adjacent for the film because the looks of the whole movie just felt lighthearted, and you want to see nature that you saw in the movie. There was this one scene where Satsuki and Mei saw the little Totoros outside and they decided to dance with them in order to raise this big tree. And then you could just see all the plain land and how the farmers were planting, and even at night you could see this big tree surround all of the trees around them in the bushes. And I thought that to make the film seem more surreal to how the setting was. It gave a good feel, but I never thought it was important in looking at the story and looking at the misadventures of Satsuki and Mei. Next is the production, and the production holds the animation and the soundtrack for the series. For a 1988 film released in April 6, wow, it's just Miyazaki is very talented when it comes to depicting this type of art, and I was impressed with what he did. There was this one scene in the beginning of the movie where Satsuki told Mei to hide inside of their father's back truck, and they thought there was a police officer coming here, and they changed from this side view, from the car view where they were looking at this male person, all the way to looking at them from the side when they were moving. I can't project, I'll just show it right there, but it looked really clean in how they proceeded in putting that. The animation looked smoothly, people run when they run, and there was this one other scene where Mei was chasing after one of the smaller Totoros before she found the big Totoro, and she was going through all this nature, and the drawings in the background just looked good. And when she was tumbling down all the way to the tree trunks, they had the details in place. And when we found the little plane where Totoro was sleeping, there was a whole bunch of grassland, and it just looked so beautiful. It looked lush, it looked clean. The soundtrack, while I didn't notice some songs were really great. Some songs in the movie just made it feel like there was a new adventure coming along. When the movie started and Satsuki and Mei were coming into their house, and I believe there was this one track called Valley of the Wind, and then there was this other track in the movie called A Haunted House, when they were looking for the little dust mice inside when they first moved into the house, and they were having their little adventure, and before they left off, it was a sense of mystery. The producer of the music for this film and many other Miyazaki films is named Joe Hisaishi, and he's done a lot of dramatic music for it, and I want to give him credit because he knows how to make things seem cool in this movie. Even though this movie's lighthearted, he makes things seem mysterious. He makes the pacing and how the emotion of the feel of one scene, especially when the cat bus comes, when Totoro and Satsuki and Mei on Satsuki's back are outside where the rain is. He knows when to depict excitement, when the tree's growing, when Satsuki and Mei are doing the dance with the other Totoros, and it's just good, and it feels like I'm watching a genuine either Disney film or a genuine anime film. And the last category for this review is, of course, the reviewer's personal opinion. And while this story did make me feel all good inside, it did make me feel nostalgic towards my personal feelings, to how I used to copy my brother's actions and how Mei used to copy Satsuki's actions, and how I was just imaginary as a kid, and it really brings back the feeling of imagination and creativity when you were younger. And as a college student, I have to deal with a lot of work right now, but it's good to look at a film like this and feel like, man, those were the good old days. And that's what I feel from this movie, and I feel that if you guys would check this out, that's most of the things you would feel in this movie. We've always had our pretend moments where we've seen spirits or we pretend that they were there, but with these children that actually had that moment and actually had such miracles as getting that tree for their house, meeting these strange creatures from another parallel world, that's got to be one of the best things that you could show for children and make them grow and develop properly. They see the relationships between the sisters, they see some of the troubles that may happen in a child's life, but you know that and keep that in mind, that it could always be better. But I was disappointed that there wasn't an ongoing plot inside of the story, because I thought if they would have kept Yasuko, their mother, in the film more and played much of a prominent role throughout the movie and her being sick, then I would have bought into it more. And I thought that Totoro, if he would have played a part into helping them get their mother better, or maybe if she got healed because of Totoro's actions, maybe with his magic or maybe with his spirit energy, I don't know what he does, then I would feel more acquainted with it. And I also felt that they met the Totoro too easily. The plot element of the spirit Totoro coming out wasn't too explored, because there was this one form of exposition inside of the movie that a lot of people miss over. And that was when the granny said she was able to see the little dust bunny spirits at the beginning of the movie, and I thought maybe she may play a primary role in reflecting and telling these girls about what they're experiencing right now with their Totoro, but it never really got to that. My Neighbor Totoro is a rated G film that runs for an hour and 27 minutes, aka 87 minutes in time, and it was produced by Studio Ghibli. Yes, Studio Ghibli, who in fact, their mascot and their symbol for their studio is the actual Totoro. So this movie was beneficial in showing just what Studio Ghibli is all about. This movie was originally a Japanese adaptation, but you can find English variations through an earlier version of Streamline, I believe, but the current licensed one is by Walt Disney Pictures. So overall, while I was able to easily enjoy this movie, it could have been better if there was a consistent amount of plot in the story, and if I was more invested into how it developed some of the characters over time. This was a kid's movie, so I would give this movie a 4 solid out of 5. So this is Dora Kills Anime and Manga. Like or dislike this video, it does not matter. You had all the quality content with none of the filler, and if you don't know what that is, then you need to watch more anime. See you guys later.